from the Evensong sequence from William Byrd's great service, we heard Musica con Texta and the English cornet and sackbut ensemble with the organist Stephen Devine, directed by Simon Ravens. Another of the many assumptions we have to make about Byrd's life is that it was while singing as a chorister in the Chapel Royal that he met Thomas Tallis, who was then the greatest composer alive in these islands. Thomas Tallis was described by another pupil as their joint magister. We know that Byrd became a close friend of Tallis, who was all of a generation older, getting on for 40 years Byrd's senior and organist to the chapel. In fact, it seems likely that after Byrd's voice broke, he probably stayed on as Tallis's assistant, so he'd have learned a great deal from him. We also presume that it was Tallis who probably helped him get his first proper job at Lincoln Cathedral. His appearance at Lincoln is the first accurate fix we get on young Byrd at the age of 23, and it's very precise. On the 25th of March, 1563, Byrd was appointed organist and master of the choristers. Although he was very young for an appointment like that, he was evidently recognized as no greenhorn, since the dean and chapter awarded him a larger salary than was usual, a total of £13, 6 shillings and 8pence. And he also managed to get the rights to a nearby rectory, which provided a 41-year income, even though there was already somebody living in it. Lincoln was a plum post. In the wake of the Reformation, not many churches were so well provisioned musically. The choir was evidently in good shape. There was clearly musical life outside the daily round of services in Lincoln too. It was during his time there that Byrd began writing a viol consort. Playing the viol, an early relative of the violin and cello family, was part of the standard musical curriculum at many of the country's cathedrals. This sequence for viol consort begins with what's called an in nomine, which sounds as though they may be sacred pieces, but they aren't. It was popular at the time to compose instrumental pieces on a borrowed theme, taken from a passage in an earlier mass by John Taverner. Byrd wrote several such in nomines. This one is number 4, and it's played by the Rose Consort of Viols.
Borders with Richard Gordon. Good afternoon. Scottish Borders Council has been given more time to repair damage caused by the winter storms and floods. With Thursday's executive heard today, ministers have agreed they can extend their Belwyn scheme work deadline. Patricia Hitchcock reports.
The Belwyn scheme will cover the council for most of the repairs following the winter storms, with the bill likely to be at least £4 million. But the local authority will also have to take just over £500,000 from reserves to fund the work. Under Belwyn, any damage should normally be fixed within 2 months. Storms Desmond, Frank and Gertrude, amongst others, caused havoc in areas such as Hoyk, Newcastleton, Peebles and Jedburgh in December and January. Councillors were told that with multiple events in quick succession and environmental bodies, SEPA and SNH, confining work on the Tweed system to between May and September, ministers have allowed the council until the end of June to complete general road and infrastructure repairs and until September the 30th to fix bridges and riverbanks. One thing Belwyn won't cover is the cost of river dredging. It's described as ineffective, uneconomic and unsustainable by officials, with the bill for the Teviot in Hoyk alone likely to be £1.5 million. But there's huge local pressure, especially in Hoyk, for dredging to be carried out.
The Tweed Valley Mountain Rescue Team will soon be moving to a new base. They've taken ownership of the former fire station in Melrose with support from the charity St John Scotland. The rescue team's operated out of a base behind the Argus Centre in Selkirk for over a quarter of a century. It's now become too small to cater for the organisation's current requirements. The move to the Melrose site will, they say, provide a building including a multi-vehicle garage, administration facilities, a training room and a welfare area. The Tweed Valley team say they're grateful to support.
A Galashiels man has been remanded in custody after being accused of 8 offences. 28-year-old Rory Morrison appeared in private at Selkirk Sheriff Court, charged with attempted housebreaking and theft by shoplifting. He also faces charges of police assault, resisting arrest, 2 counts of making threats, possession of a controlled Class C drug and breaching an antisocial behaviour order. Morrison made no plea or declaration. The case was continued for further examination. He was remanded in custody by Sheriff Celia Sanderson and is expected to appear in court again on Friday. A video has been launched to highlight the dog fouling issue in the Borders. It's hoped it'll get the pick it up message over to those who are still failing to clean up after their pets. It's been created by the Hoyk High School News Group and is available via Scottish Borders Council's YouTube channel. Natasha is one of the presenters on the video.
The Scottish Borders, home to spectacular scenery, beautiful parks and many public footpaths and byways. I am Daniel Franklin, here at Wilton Lodge Park, which is a prime location for dog walkers.
It took us about 2 days, 1 day of filming and then another day of just editing.
So do you hope the message will get across?
Yeah, I hope it does. I mean, a lot of people do already pick up their dog dirt, but you do get the odd people that just leave it, and hopefully this video, if it does get around to a lot of people, that they do listen. You get the signs and people just kind of look at them and ignore them, but if you get a video, you know it's young people from the town that think that it's a bad thing for the Borders.
On to sport now. In the opening round of this season's Borders Triathlon Series has taken place. In Galashiels, 128 competitors started and 126 finished the course, which was comprised of a 750-metre swim, a 19-kilometre cycle and a 4,660-metre run. This year's winner was Craig Dale, who crossed the finishing line 1.33 minutes ahead of Martin Gore. Michael Lavender was a further 30 seconds back in third place. Alice Jenkins was the first woman home, with Gemma Lavender taking silver and Joe Phillips crossing for third. The next race will be held at Peebles on the 12th of June. Melrose owner Robert Miller Bakewell saw his colours carried to victory at the Braes of Derwent point-to-point when For Yes landed the restricted. Denham jockey Harriet Bryce, partnered For Yes, trained at Selkirk by Leslie Coulthard to win at Corbridge. Berwickshire-based Will Ramsey won the club members' race, riding his own Great Gusto, while Smindrum jockey Nick Hopwood headed the concluding maiden race with Bollin Buster. Looking ahead now to tonight's football, Berwick Rangers are in action against East Kilbride in a rescheduled East of Scotland Cup final at Shielfield. The match was postponed last Tuesday because the pitch was waterlogged, and the scheduled kick-off this evening, 7:45. And there's action too in all 3 divisions of the Border Embroideries League. Greenlaw will entertain Chirnside United, and Stow have home advantage over Gordon in the A-League. In the B division, Second place Tweedmouth travel to Eyemouth and Gallahotspur host Earlston Rhymers. And there are 3 fixtures in the C Division where table-topping Newtown entertain Lauder, Selkirk Victoria are at home to Peebles, and St Boswell's host Melrose. Now the Borders weather. Here's Judith Ralston.
Good afternoon. A wee bit more in the way of cloud this afternoon, but it will remain dry with still some sunshine coming through. Feeling pleasant as well with light winds, highs of 13 Celsius. As we head into the evening, any cloud will clear away with some late sunshine. A dry night will follow with long clear spells. This will lead to a chilly night once again with overnight lows of around about -2, even -3 Celsius. And we will see a touch of frost in Shelter. BBC Radio Scotland's weather for the Borders.
John Beattie on BBC Radio Scotland.
Have you heard the one about the retired policeman who lives in Fife, who's become the UK record holder for the 20-mile run? And to make it a little bit more fascinating, he holds the over 55 record for that distance, and this new record of his was for the over 75s. So